little b is 2, capital C is 70. So this is another side angle side case. Okay, so since we have the angle for C, that means we have to do the C squared formula. So C squared equal A squared plus B squared minus 2AB cosine C. So A was 5, so 5 squared plus B was 2, so 2 squared minus 2 times 5 times 2. See, all those numbers are on the A's and the B's are on the same side of the equals. And then we have our cosine of 70 degrees. Now again, make sure you do your square root in order for it to be right. So we need 5 squared plus 2 squared minus 2 times 5 times 2 cosine 70. That gives me 22.16, and then I do square root of the answer, and then I get 4.707, and so that's the 4.71. Now for our next one, we need the A angle, and so we could write that formula: A equal cos negative 1, B squared plus C squared minus A squared over 2BC. And so that's cos negative 1. B was 2, so we have 2 squared plus C. Okay, so this one, we really need to make sure we use the answer button, which was 4.707 and some other stuff. And then that's going to be squared minus 5 squared all over 2 times B, and B was 2, times C, which was your ands. Now, when you're typing this in the calculator, you may have to do a parentheses for the top and a parentheses for the bottom, because you don't want to accidentally make these parts go out to the side. Okay, so let's get that. Cos negative 1, 2 squared plus, get an extra parentheses, 2 squared plus, now I need to go to this answer, press enter, and that's going to be squared minus 5 squared. All of that needs to be divided by, so I guess I need another parentheses. Oh, I see what happened. I don't need to close this one. There. Okay. So all of that in my numerator divided by parentheses 2 times 2 times your answer. And that gives us 86.469. And they want to round to 1 decimal place, and so this is 86.5. Now, those are both correct, but what I want to show you is, what if I did the same thing except change this to 4.71, and I change this to 4.71. So my point is, if used 4.71 instead of ands, you get 86.39, so 86.4. And I know in a few videos I've mentioned, don't get mad if you're off by 0.1 or 0.01 or whatever. Just make sure you're using your answer button, because we know that happens. Earlier we were lucky, but here we weren't. Because you can see the top one's going to round to 0.5 and the bottom one's going to round to 0.4. So just be aware of that. Then the next part is if we know two angles, we get our third. So 70 plus 86.5 is 156.5. And when we do 180 minus that answer, we get 23.5. And so that's that one. Okay, so there's number 4. Number 5, this time we know capital C is 150, little a is 9, and little b is 7. So we're going to do our law of cosines. C squared equal a squared plus b squared minus 2ab cosine C. I usually start with writing the formula, and it does get into a habit. So a is 9, b is 7, and then there's 2 times 9 times 7, cosine 150, and then c is the square root of that answer. So we need 9 squared plus 7 squared minus 2 times 9 times 7 cosine 150. And now square root of that answer, that gives us 15.463. And so based on that, we get 15.46. Now we need the A angle. So if we need the A angle, we'll start writing the A formula. A squared equal b squared plus c squared minus 2ab cosine A. Whoops. 2bc cosine A. Remember that the same two letters have to be here. Now, since we want capital A, our formula is really going to be inverse cosine b squared plus c squared minus a squared over 2bc. So now let's get that. Inverse cosine, the b was the 7, so 7 squared plus c was 15.46, but we need to do the ands from 15.46, and we got to square that, minus a squared, which is 9 squared, all of that over 2 times 7 times the ands. And again, this has to be parentheses, that needs to be parentheses, and inverse cosine the whole thing. Okay, so I'm going to use this one. Well, yeah. So this one has a 7. This one I need to put my ands button, which looks like 15.46, so it's there. Notice it's highlighted so I can press enter and it throws it in there. And then this needs to be minus 9 squared. And this needs to be 2 times 7. Delete this part and throw this in there. Oops, oh shoot. Take that away. Okay. This part needs to be there. Man, it's putting it too high up. I am doing Control Z. Okay, I'm just going to type some 15.463479585. That should be accurate enough, because that's what's showing, but apparently there's even more. Okay, so when I do that, I get 16.918, and they really just want one decimal place here, so this is 16.9. Then we need our last answer. So for that, we do 150 minus, well, 150 plus 16.9 is 166.9, and 180 minus 166.9, make this a 0.0 like that, and we get 13.1, and that's our answer. Okay, now this is an easy one, because if all are the same, it's equilateral and equiangular. Those are some geometry terms. Just means all of them are 60 degrees. We're not going to go back to geometry and say, what about spherical geometry when every angle could be 100? We're not going to do that. We just do 180 divided by 3. So 60. Okay, now for this one, this is different because you have a side case, and we're going to deal with angle A first. So I need a squared equal b squared plus c squared minus 2bc cosine A. Now we are looking for capital A, so remember we're like basically putting this expression over here. So that means we leave the b squared plus c squared positive. We make the a squared negative, and then we divide by 2bc. Now the only other thing, if I put cosine A, it'd be good, or I can just say cos negative 1 of that, which is what I really wanted. So this will be cos negative 1. Okay, b is 13 squared plus c squared minus a squared over 2 times b times c. So the advantage of this one is you don't have to use the answer button, but it is a lot of numbers. So in my denominator I have 2 times 13 times 4. In my numerator, this needs to be 16. This one needs to be 4. And this one needs to be 13. Whoops. Okay, let's double check. 13 squared plus 4 squared minus 16 squared over 2 times 13 times 4. Okay, that's right. So then we get 133.05, And so that's 133.1. That's your degrees. Now, we need to do the same thing for B. You know, these are side cases. This one, 5, was a side angle side, for those that are marking that. When we're getting our B angle, we're going to have A squared plus C squared minus B squared over 2AC, but we need inverse cosine of that. So that's inverse cosine. The A was 16 squared plus 4 squared minus 13 squared over 2 times 16 times 4. Okay, like that. It really is easier if you find one that you already have that worked and then just adjust it. This one is 16 squared. That one's 4 squared. That one's 13 squared. And that's 2 times 16 times 4. And so we get 36.419. We just want one decimal place, so that's 36.4. Now that we have two of the angles, we get our third. By the way, if you did the formula for capital C, it should have worked also, but I don't think you want to do that extra work. Don't blame me there. Okay, so 10.5 is your answer. Okay, now on this one, it's a review type problem that says this could be either the law of sines or cosines. Well, based on this, it's sines. And so we're going to have to do sine 15 over 10, because that's your A, and then you need the B. So that's sine B over 12. And so to get B, we need inverse sine 12 sine 15 over 10. So inverse sine 12 sine 15 over 10. Okay, so that gives you 18.094. Now, as we saw in the last lesson, on the one where they're trying to make sure you know if there's one solution or two or no solutions, you have to round to 2 decimal places, not 1. So this is 18.09. Okay, so now that we know one angle was 15 and this angle is 18, add those together. And subtract from 180. And that gives us 161.91. Now, that's not our answer. Our A is 15, our B is this. That added up to this. Oh, I just did that wrong. Now, I'm going to need that number because you see that that actually worked here. This is for the second B, which I didn't mean to do yet. I meant to do 180 minus 33.09. -33.09, and that gives you 146.91, and that's this angle. Now we also need C, and so we can do our law of sines again with the A information and the C information. So we have sine 15 over 10 equal sine 146.91 over C. So C is 10 sine 146.91 all over sine 15. So 10 sine 146.91 divided by sine 15. And that gives us 21.094. Oh, see right there. Dang it. So I used my 146.91, which was a rounded number, because actually my original rounded number was 18.09. See how this falls into place? This answer is 21.09, but we're supposed to get 21.10. So that kind of stinks. So what we have to do is 10 sine, if it's not really 146.91, we need to use an ands button from previously, the one that's like 146, and then divide that by sine 15. Okay, so let's do that. The one that looked like 146 from earlier. Oh, it's from a 33. Well, it was the one with the 18. Okay, so we need to backtrack a little bit. We need to do 180 minus 15 minus this 18 thing. That gives us that answer. And now we need to do this calculation and put this one there. So now that gives us 21.096. And so there we actually can make it 21.10, which is the right answer. So we subtracted this to get the 146.9056 and so forth. And then I had to use the ands button like we did earlier. And that went into there and we got it. Okay, so that's for your first triangle. So all of this is your first triangle. Now, what we have to do then is think about what was our first angle found. It was B. And when we subtract from 180 and add the original 15, what we get is a number smaller than 180, which is smaller than 180. So the triangle exists. Second triangle. So your second triangle exists. And then the 161.91 is this answer. And then we have to do our 180 minus 176.91. That gives you 3.09, which is this answer. And then we have to get our last C. C equal, let's see. Earlier we did 10 sine 146. So here, it's going to be 10 sine. The new C angle is 3.09. I really am hoping that doesn't have to have more decimal places. And then divide by sine 15. Sine 3.09 divide by sine 15. So that gives me 2.0827, and sure enough, I'm off by a little bit. So this is 2.08, this is 2.09. I figure on these, I'm just going to have to count it right if you're off by 0.01. I can get it, but it's going to be a pain. Okay, so let's do the, we needed 2.09. We needed to do 180 minus the original 18, which should have been like an ands button. Find the 18. There it is. That gives us 161.90564. So then that means if I add that to 15, I get 176.9056, which is smaller than 180, and so then we do our 180 minus 176.9056. That gives us 3.094359. And then we put that here, 10 sine 3.09 ands, that one, over sine 15. You really have to backtrack a bit. So now I get 2.085, and because of that 5, I can round up to 2.09. So I really did get it working, but I do know it's going to be a pain a little bit. Now we have some easy ones. Now we're shifting gears to area. Okay, so your area of a triangle is going to be 1/2 base times height. Your area when it's a side angle side is AB sine C divided by 2. your area formula with the side is the one with the long square root with all that, where S is this. So I'm basically teaching you there'd be very much, like a lot of calculations involved with that. And then on this one, we actually work it, and we use one of our formulas, not this one, we use the other one, which is just going to be a half and multiply the side lengths, and then sine 45. So really your half of 2 cancels, and then you go 4 sine 45. And that gives us 2.828. And so that's the 2.83. Okay, so this one we do need to use that side formula. Let me skip it just for a minute and do this one. This would be a half 2 times 9 sine 35. So the half of 2 cancels. You get 9 sine 35. Okay, so that's 5.162, so 5.16. Okay, so now let's do the back, to 13. Your side formula, the first thing is we want to do S equal half of the addition of the side lengths, 4 plus 3 plus 6. So I would type 4 plus 3 plus 6 divided by 2. Whoops. Press enter, then divide by 2. That's 13 halves. Or you could put 6.5. I know in this problem it's going to be easier if you use a decimal. So use a decimal. Now that we have the S part, then we go back to, what was this formula? It's the square root of S times S minus A, S minus B, S minus C. So that's the long square root of 6.5, and then you do 6.5 minus 4. And then you do 6.5 minus 3. And then you do 6.5 minus 6. Okay, so when we do that, we have the long square root, 6.5 times parentheses. I'm going to do some of this mentally. 6.5 minus 4 is 2.5. 6.5 minus 3 is 3.5. And 6.5 minus 6 is a half. And so I get 5.332. And we did want 5.33 right there. All right, so that's how you do the problems. Hope that helps. Have a good one.